U.S. President Donald Trump announced on Sunday that the United States would immediately halt all aid and assistance to Nigeria and repeated his threat of a military operation in Nigeria over the killings of Christians if the government of Nigeria continues to allow the killing of Christians. The president stated that the United States might deploy forces into the country, guns a-blazing, to completely wipe out the Islamic terrorists responsible for the violence. Reacting to the threats by the U.S. president, the Nigerian presidency has intensified diplomatic engagement with Washington, reaffirming Nigeria's commitment to protecting all citizens and to secure assurances that any military cooperation will not undermine Nigeria's sovereignty. Joining us on this show to discuss the threat by U.S. President Trump and what this will mean for U.S.-Nigeria relations is Dr. Kester Onor, Senior Research Fellow at the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, NIIA. Well, Dr. Onor, good to have you.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
You've been avoiding us for a very long time, but this is your subject, international relations. Now, what is the way forward for Nigeria? We all know the background. We've been discussing it ad infinitum. What should Nigeria do? What do you recommend?
Thank you very much, Dr. Abati. I believe that first and foremost, we should equally appreciate the interest of United States government in Nigerian affair. U.S. is is a strong ally to the Nigerian government, and we've been working together, collaborating on various fronts, including counter-terrorism operations and the other things, you know. So I believe that, Nigeria should continue, to work with the United States government, regardless of these comments. It's obvious that citizens of Nigeria have suffered untold hardship. Lives have been lost, through violence and terrorist attack. And the latest one is banditry. But these things are generic. And the U.S. putting their foot on the ground will not actually solve the problem. So it goes beyond a kinetic force. I believe that this is the time for all Nigeria to come together. All hands must be on deck. And we are going to, through diplomatic channel, discuss how this issue will be resolved. We should equally understand that terrorism is not a problem for Nigeria alone. It's a global problem. And when we talk about extremism or Islamic jihadism that are, moving all over the world like wildfire, causing catastrophe, killing and maiming, is not restricted to Nigeria alone. And you know that because it's a terrorist activity, Nigeria as a state, as a nation, cannot handle this problem, this issue alone. It's equally, Nigeria requires the cooperation of other international community for them to solve this problem. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So let's talk about the principle of sovereign equality amongst all nations based on the UN Charter, United Nations Charter. And this threat by the United States through its president, President Donald Trump, on Nigeria, does that go against this? And what should the United Nations position be on this? Can they rein him in, if at all?
We have to understand that Nigeria is a sovereign nation.
Yes.
And that sovereignty means that no external influence, should come to Nigeria without the approval of Nigerian government, However, Nigeria is equally a party to many international treaties. We're in a globalized world, yeah. And now you cannot live in isolation, Yes, U.S. has issued a threat. It's just a threat. And that threat, they didn't issue threat that they're coming to destroy Nigeria, no. They said that they will come and fight the Islamic, jihadists in Nigeria. However, they cannot come to Nigeria without, agreement from Nigerian government. That is not to say that we have not been working in tandem with the United States. We've been cooperating and collaborating on various fronts. We have U.S. soldiers helping to train our soldiers in counter-insurgencies and all these things.
No, Professor, I think you don't get that point. The UN Charter talks about the equality of states. Yeah. But America does not respect the equality of states. America, particularly under President Trump, behaves as if the United States is the primary power in the world. That I think, is the dilemma in that question.
Well, you should understand the configuration of the world. That we move from a bipolar world, now we have entered into the multipolar world system. You understand? During the bipolar world, we have two world powers. Talking about the United Socialist of Soviet Republic, and then we talk about America. And you discover that these are two ideologies that are opposed each other. You understand? So when we are talking about sovereignty, yes, we recognize that states are equal among the Committee of Nations.
Like Animal Farm, all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others.
Definitely.
Because it seems like that. If we're saying we have equal sovereignty of states based on the UN Charter, which the United States of America is signed to, then them imposing or threatening to come into the nation without an invitation or agreement, surely that does not guarantee the equal sovereignty of states. It means that there are some states that are more sovereign than others.
Well, I think you can read between the line. You understand? But when you come to, maybe according to the United Nations Charter, all states are equal.
Exactly.
Would you respect Dr. Kester? That's just written on paper. You know, like Fela sang, one veto vote is equal to 99 or more. States are equal, and some have veto votes on the Security Council. So let's keep kidding that. States are equal. America launched an airstrike in Venezuela recently. States are equal. Henry Kissinger perpetrated the heinous crimes he perpetrated, and he went scot-free with all of it. With Trump, we are going back to the Kissinger era again. And that's why the two questions I want to ask you. Number one, who are those that we should now make ambassador at a time like this where there's international focus on Nigeria? Because we can't just put any dunderhead there. There are people that have connections, contacts, and experience on how to navigate. That's the first question. The second question I'd like to put on the floor this morning is give us an architecture. You are a researcher. You study the insecurity. You also have a background as an ex-military officer. So you studied the insecurity architecture around this area. Can you give us an architecture? Let's even understand what's going on there.
Thank you very much. When we talk about maybe those that should represent us globally, I think this is the time for us to look for seasoned diplomats. So that, some of these issues, apart from what you see on paper, there should be a backdoor channel, or what I may call a quiet diplomacy. Trump has issued his threats. That does not mean that things are not happening. I believe that Nigerian government, yes, we already engaging our American counterparts. So when we talk about, I should give you the background. It's obvious that, insecurity quagmire has bedeviled Nigeria. And we don't have to point an accusing finger to this present government. We have to understand that this is a perennial problem. You understand? Successive government, they have come, they equally met these precarious situations, and they left it unsolved. It's unfortunate that this present government is now bearing the brunt of the insecurity. Boko Haram has lasted more than 15 years in Nigeria. Yes. And various successive governments has not been able, to nip the crisis. Now this government has come. We've seen the government trying. You understand? We are not saying that people are not dying. People are dying quite okay. But then Americans stamping their foot on the ground will not be a solution to this crisis. We can see examples from Libya. When the doctrine, responsibility to protect was enacted, they went into Libya to safeguard, civilians. Today, what happened to Libya? And the other cases like that. So I think it is time for Nigeria to come together, form a synergy, and they look for solution to this perennial problem and solve it once and for all. And then America, they have the intel. If they want to help Nigeria, they know the sponsors of these terrorist activities. You understand? They can start arresting them, freezing their property abroad. And from there, at least some other things can start to happen.
I think we mentioned some people that were sponsoring terrorism that the Dubai government apprehended at that time. There was a list. What happened to that list? Why didn't we get to the end of that matter?
Well, some security issues are not discussed publicly like this. It may look as if government is not doing anything. But I know that government are doing everything possible to arrest the situation.
Okay, Chad has closed its border against us, even if the territory between us and Chad is Lake Chad, the Lake Chad Basin area. Then Niger has an extensive land border with Nigeria. Cameroon, also towards the north, the whole of that axis, these are our neighbors. They are shutting down. Chad has closed its border because they don't want Nigeria's problem to cross to their side. What should Nigeria be doing, considering the fact that we also need our neighbors?
It's laughable to hear that Chad has closed their borders. If you realize this, the peak of these terrorist activities actually came as a result of the collapse of Libya. When Gaddafi was removed, then Libya, that used to be one of the best economy within the whole world, collapsed. And all these things happened due to foreign interventions in Libya. And as a result of that collapse, there were weapon proliferations because a large number of weapons that were carted away by both the Tuaregs and the other ones working for Gaddafi, those weapons began to find their way all through the Sahel regions, And some of those fighters moved, start coming this way. So for us now to be saying that these people have closed their border, I believe that the Nigerian military, we have enough capacity, if given the right resources, to tackle the problem in Nigeria.
All right.
So we can do it.
We can do it, definitely.
We can do it.
If we have the right support, the right logistics and the right resources, I believe if you look at what Nigerian military have done, look at our investment in Liberia, look at our investment in Sierra Leone, look at our investment in Gambia, Guinea-Bissau, and even in Cote d'Ivoire, we can all agree that we have done enough, that with the right support, with the right leadership, with the right resources, that we are going to handle the challenges of insecurity in Nigeria.
All right, so let me further on. There was a question that Rufai asked. I'm not sure you broke it down in terms of the designation of Nigeria as a country of particular concern. Is it justified? That's one. What's your take? What's your position on that? The second is that the response, based on the U.S. perception that there's Christian genocide going on in Nigeria, part of that is potential economic sanction. What they've said is that they might withdraw all aids. Can Nigeria survive without foreign aid from the United States of America, bearing in mind a number of significant projects currently being funded by the United States? Because that's another aspect we're not really talking about. The impact of a withdrawal of aids from the United States of America and how Nigeria can begin to prepare for that if it does happen.
Okay, let me first take the question of can Nigeria survive if the United States withdraw their aids. I believe that Nigeria is blessed with monumental resources, both human and material resources, and if we work together, we can harness those resources for the benefit of our people. Talking about survival, even without United States aids, Nigeria, we have been surviving. At least we remember the period of Abacha, rule, when we had a kind of international, we become like a pariah state. We survived. You understand?
In any case, African countries, the conversation is that we should move beyond aid.
Yes, we should move beyond aid.
Famous book on it, Dambi Samoyo,
yes.
This East African, who said, no aid, but development, cooperation.
Yes.
We've been talking about this for a long time.
So we will survive.
Nigeria will survive.
We've been talking about it for a long time. But you say we will survive, but survival can also mean untold hardship on the people. You cited the Abacha era, and in terms of, I'm just being factual, as a patriotic Nigerian, I want to say, oh yes, talk tough. But the truth is that despite this talk around moving away from aid, Nigeria and a number of African countries have still continued to depend on aids from Western countries. That's the truth. Because recall when USAID, the funding was paused when Trump came into power. A number of sectors suffered, particularly the health sectors. So I'm asking that, how do we position ourselves? Because some of these things could be a blessing in disguise. Is it time for Africa, Nigeria in particular, to begin to find its path to self-sufficiency and reduce its reliance on foreign aid so that we don't, get the short end of the stick when things like this happen?
I believe with political will, Nigeria will survive. Not just
good governance.
Not just political will and good governance.
Key,
Not just surviving. Nigeria will develop
right.
better. Nigeria will fare better.
Fantastic.
Good governance.
Because if you look at our natural resources, which are in high demand, so some of these things, we can actually look inward and see how we can develop ourselves. Instead of moving those resources raw, exporting them raw, we can begin to develop them here and move them out as a finished product.
But those are the resources that the other foreign nations are coming to steal, you know. I don't want to mention nations now, that they're coming to steal from parts. And these are the resources that are also fueling the conflict and the killings in parts of this country. So I want you to talk about the war economy. Secondly, you talked about Liberia. We talked about what Nigeria did for other nations in Africa. Why can't we, our military, do it for us here? Because it's very sad. You know, look at Chad. We've seen occasions where Chad chased Boko Haram back into our borders here. I've gone to check the artillery strength of the Chad military. It doesn't even come close to what Nigeria has. So why are we finding it difficult here to be able to do those heroic work we did in those other countries? This is the Nigeria of ECOMOG.
Thank you very much.
This is the Nigeria of ECOMOG that put ECOMOG together and funded it. And ECOMOG, when we had to solve the problem in Nigeria, we didn't call the Europeans or the British. We put ECOMOG together. Nigeria is ECOMOG. What's wrong with us?
Mr. Rufa, it's easier for you to look at Nigeria and other countries, our neighbors. But at the same time, you should understand that we are talking about a country of more than 200 and something million people, you know, with diversities, you know, with both criss-cutting and cross-cutting cleavages. And we are talking about borders that span thousands of miles. And then if you check the number of our security men, like the military, you know, for us to properly man those borders, you understand? So I believe that now that at least we are advancing technologically, that maybe we can apply the use of technology to man those borders. Because if you look at the porosities of the borders, it's easier. You can talk about a country with about 6 million population, 10 million population, or maybe Ghana, but it's not the same thing like Nigeria. We have a country that is up to about 500 and something ethnic groups, you know, with different conglomeration of about 500 ethnic nationalities. And this country are living together. You should know it's not easy. But that is not to say that government cannot do more. Just like
what should we do with the
just like
military?
Dr. Bati said, with good governance and the political
What
will.
should we do with the military now? The NSA has met with you know, the service chiefs and all that. What should we do now?
The military should be empowered. There should be adequate resources for them to fight terrorism. You understand? Okay. So they should be properly empowered. Then there should equally be training. You know, just like I said before, Americans have been in Nigeria training our troops on insurgency and counterterrorism. Okay. You know, this training should continue. It's partnership that we require this particular time. Okay. It's not maybe America putting their boots on the ground.
Okay, Doctor, you are part of Nigeria's foremost foreign policy think tank, the NIA. Are you aware of any attempt by the Tinubu administration to at least get across to the experts at the Institute of International Affairs to seek opinion? Because we have said that, look, the government needs all the help that it can get from retired diplomats, retired, former presidents, even the security chiefs. This is not a thing that anybody can just say, oh, this is how we will respond to Donald Trump. Is the NIA involved in any way, trying to solve this problem, or they just think the people in NIA are just writing footnotes and bibliography?
NIA is deeply involved. Because I can remember we having a round table, discussing, for example, the issue in Niger. We discussed and we came out with a communique that we passed to the presidency and some other issues. We have and we equally have a periodic strategic foresighting every Wednesday. You understand? So we've been deeply involved in trying to ameliorate this crisis. You understand? NIA is part of, it's an agency of government. So the government cannot do with NIA. You understand? So we are working for the government to make sure that
So
these
it's not
issues...
just that you are holding talk shops.
No.
Yes,
Where did you go? Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Dr. Batu?
Anyway,
Yeah.
thank you, Dr. Kester. I look forward to seeing you on Friday.
I'll be delighted.